Welcome to Break the Bank Garage. My name is Ben, and this is my 2013 BMW 335i. Now, unlike a lot of the cars you see on this channel, this one is here for the long term, so we're going to reward it today with some performance upgrades. Stay tuned for the end of the video where we test the results. Today we're going to be working on the intake system, which is everything relating to how the air gets from the intake down through the turbo and intercooler and then into the throttle body. So what we're trying to do with all the parts we got is increase power by increasing airflow and cooling down the air more before it goes into the engine. And here's how we're going to do that. The first restriction is the air filter inside this air box. The stock air filter can really reduce airflow, so I have this, a K&N high flow air filter. Some people would say to replace this whole unit with an aftermarket air intake. Others would argue that makes no difference. I'm going to keep it. This is the Performance Power Kit, the M Performance Power Kit, which is a slight upgrade from the standard one. So I think this system's pretty good. It can just be made a little bit better with a high flow filter. After the air goes through the intake, it goes into the turbo inlet pipe, which can be very restrictive where it goes into the turbo. So I've got this aftermarket CTS turbo intake pipe will increase the airflow. After the turbo, the air flows down to the intercooler, which is responsible for cooling the air so it's colder when it goes into the engine. The stock intercooler definitely cools the air some, but not as much as this one will. This is a VRSF 5-inch intercooler that will increase the cooling capacity of the system. Colder air into the engine means more power. Lastly, after the intercooler, the air goes up through a charge pipe, which from the factory is plastic and is prone to breaking. So I have a new to me, albeit slightly used, aftermarket charge pipe. With all these things installed, I should be able to tune the car more aggressively and hopefully beat the 0 to 60 time I got on its current tune, and definitely beat the 0 to 60 time from the factory. So the car's up our ramps, I got all the parts, so let's get to it. First thing I'm gonna do is remove everything up top that I think I need to remove, which will start with this intake, and it kind of just pops right off. And here we have the stock air filter. This stock air box is pretty non-restrictive. It has a tube that gets air from up front, and then it also has this hole cut in it. This is kind of the difference between the standard one and the M Performance one, is that hole right here. Engine cover will just pop right off. I'll take this whole box out because why not? It's easy enough. I've never actually replaced one of these on this specific car. I've done it on the same engine in a different chassis, but I think I can just take it off from here and reach down there. I'm gonna see. These come right out. You can leave these on, but I like to just take them off, otherwise I end up dropping them somewhere. Let's get the sensor undone. This should kind of wiggle loose from the throttle. Oh, but it's attached in a few more places. So right down there, it's attached in with just a clip. I think the bottom where it attaches down here to the intercooler would be the next logical point of attack. If I can reach down there. I might as well go down from the bottom because I'm gonna have to take stuff off the bottom anyway. So I got a bunch of 8mm to remove this underbelly here. Look at how many 8mm were holding that thing on. That's insane. And then, of course, there was one Phillips, I think from a previous DIYer. So here we are underneath, and this is where the charge pipe connects to the intercooler that I was looking at up top. And obviously, this was the way to go because it's a lot more accessible. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's it. Yeah, there we go. I didn't edit out a bunch of time. That only took me 10 seconds. Don't worry. You just had to put the camera down. Now, maybe I can pull it off from up top. Now let's see if I can kind of snake it out. I wonder if something else attached to this. So there's the old one and the new to me one. I can see why it's got this because I really had to flex this to get it out. So it's going to have to go in two separate pieces and then be tightened down. Now before removing the intercooler, I'm going to remove this boost pipe. This is the one pipe I'm not going to be replacing, just because I'm not. That's why. Good question. Yep, that should be good there. Now time to figure out what I gotta do to get this intercooler out. I'm gonna start with this Torx that's on each side. All right, now how you figure stuff out about how to get stuff out is you just wiggle stuff and think, did that help or did that not help? If it wiggles more, you know that helped. That was actually pretty easy. Couple of screws. Definitely a nice cleaning opportunity. Look at that little guy. Look at this little guy. Hey there, bud. How you doing? R.I.P. Now it's time to do a little comparison. There's the factory intercooler. There's the new one. I can definitely see how this thing not only will cool the air more or cool more air, but also just be a lot more durable. It doesn't have all this plastic on the side that can crack and leak. So obviously if you have leaks in your intercooler, that means you're leaking boost, which means bad power. But before we get this thing in, we have to do what's probably the most difficult part, and that would be, boom, the turbo inlet pipe. That's got to go in there somewhere. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of space. Gonna have to do a lot of it from the bottom, I think. And I'm pretty sure it like screws in down there. So I think I'm gonna have to get pretty tricky with some extensions. Obviously, the first thing to do is check out the pieces it comes with. And I'm probably not gonna be reading instructions on this. I am the instructions. Ta-da! We're all together. But this is where it screws into the turbo, and this does something else. Let's find out. I can't really tighten this on because I'm gonna have to clock this according to where it needs to go and where that screw is. So I gotta take the old one out and probably fit this piece in and then tighten the hose clamp once it's already in the vehicle, if possible. So I wasn't filming it, but I was just looking in here and I moved this just a little bit and it broke off right here and the car was a little bit hot still, so it spewed coolant all over. So now I need a new coolant breather line thing because that's not good. That's like proper broken. More parts. And now I have to clean this up before I kill my dog. Okay, the good news is I can see what I have to do. This is the pipe I'm trying to remove here. It's connected to this breather, which connects right down there with a Torx, probably the same as the ones underneath. So I'm gonna get an extension reach in there and see if I can disconnect that. I feel like as I'm trying to take this out, an important question will be, how am I gonna get it back in? I feel like the odds of me dropping the screw, I don't wanna jinx myself, are pretty high. Why am I doing this with a hot engine? Why? I barely got the screw. Barely. Okay, do I be impatient or do I be patient? Yeah. Got it. I'm sure this tube that I'm trying to disconnect is probably extremely brittle. So, but also I'm not very patient, so I tend to just send things. Man, this thing is some weak plastic. Oh, okay. Okay, so this pipe goes down into the turbo, and it's got, somehow holds on with a screw that goes through that. My thinking was that I would have to look up through here, where the boost pipe goes, but I think if I move further back, I think that's it right there, that nut. I was expecting something different. I am not going to film me taking this nut off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to wire brush it to get some of the rust off and then get something on it and back it out. Might be the last piece of the puzzle. That is a long stud. Holy crap. See if we can pull it out from the top now. Okay. Got to get it away from this other tube enough, from this other pipe. Enough. Oh my gosh. That was definitely the hardest one to get out. My hands are cramping a little bit. Okay. That looks a little different immediately, but should work. But here is where the big performance upgrade comes with this turbo inlet. Not only is the pipe bigger all the way through, but the inner diameter of where it goes into the turbo makes a huge difference. Look how thick these plastic walls are. These aluminum ones are much less thick, so you have a lot more airflow. And I'm not a mathematician, but a tiny bit bigger in a whole circle makes a huge difference of actual area. Somebody can do the math on that one for me. It's always a game of like lining up the tightener on this on the hose clamps to make sure that it's accessible. So I want it tight enough that I can both adjust this and actually adjust the hose clamp a little bit when it's in there to make sure I have access to it, but I don't want it so loose that I have to sit underneath there for an hour turning it at an awkward angle. I'm going to try to drop this in similar to how the old one came out. Honestly, I don't know how that's even going to be possible because this thing's just going to hit. Maybe I take this out. I took this little piece out to make this a little bit more flexible as I try to finesse it in there. Maybe I take that out too. Yeah. Ultimate flexibility now. Let's probably go underneath and make sure I'm heading in the right direction. All right, I got that out on the bottom. I ended up having to take off the boost pipe just to get better access to put that stubborn stud and nut back in. This is the piece I opted to not replace just because a lot of these pieces you replace because they're plastic. This one's rubber. There are some advantages to replacing this one, but I can do that at a later time. Now I got to get this connected, and I think how I want to do that is by removing it up here because I don't want to mess with it too much and break it. This seems like one of those things where if you need to get to work the next day and you're going to do this job, you probably just want to have it on hand. Seems like it's a high likelihood of breaking it, just knowing how brittle all these plastic BMW parts can be. So I think the answer will be to fit this on and then slide it down in there. This will be a lot easier to fit this tiny little Allen in like this rather than reaching down with an extension like I did to take the Torx one out of the old one. Now it's got to go into there, but I got to get the hose clamp on. Before I start messing with hose clamps or anything, I'm actually going to dry fit all of this to make sure I have the pipe in kind of the correct orientation, which means putting the airbags back in temporarily. So I got the hose clamp on it down there. All right, and if I have a vacuum issue later on, I know why. Click, ta-da, beautiful. So that is one turbo inlet completely installed. Now I gotta put the boost pipe back in, and then I can put the charge pipe in, and then the intercooler can go in. But before I put the new charge pipe in, I got to swap over these sensors because I did a similar thing on a previous BMW that I had, and the sensors were not the same. So the car threw a code immediately. So I know mine works, so I might as well just keep it. Then lastly, this little thing is for a tube to attach for the automatic transmission, but I'm obviously far too cool for that and have a manual transmission. So I got to take this little cap off. There we go. And swap that over. Ta-da! Now this thing's ready to go in. So the upper piece I just put in from the top, and then the bottom one I think I'll put in from the bottom. Slide in. There we go, and I'll tighten those hose clamps down last after everything else is situated. Now the boost pipe, that was easy, that just clicked right in. Ready for the intercooler. All right, I'm ready to install the intercooler now, which is gonna be a little bit heavy, but hopefully I can get it to snap into both of the pipes and then get the screws situated. All right, the boost pipe just clicked in. Charge pipe, not yet. Trying to avoid getting coolant on me. All right, I got this side in place for the screw. Haven't gotten the charge pipe in yet, but I'm just gonna get this screw started. Okay, a little problem I ran into, perhaps a manufacturing defect, maybe damage in shipping, but this bracket is supposed to be out further so that this fan can clip in there. And because as it is, there's not enough space for that lip to go inside. This one, I just took a pliers and I bent out, and now that one's got the space. I'm gonna have to do the same on this side. All right, now time to go under and get this charge pipe fitted. All right, now with the charge pipe on, I can do the final fitment of the intake using the hose clamp this time. I am really excited to try this out. The unfortunate part is that I broke the stupid coolant line thing, although I maintain that that was not my fault. I barely even moved that thing, so. Now this is the last little bit prohibiting me from testing this. Oh, I gotta plug this in. That would have caused a code immediately. So I almost forgot. Air filter. Didn't put any air filter in whatsoever. I was so excited. So let's get this thing in now. I suppose that would have improved airflow if I just ran it with no filter whatsoever. That's one way to do it. And now the coolant line that I had ordered arrived, so we can put that on. All right, with that coolant hose on, we are now ready to flash the new tune. So I've got it hooked up to a trickle charger, just a battery keeper, just so the voltage doesn't go down too far as we're flashing, because that can be an issue. The other thing is you want your seat belt plugged in so it doesn't go into like sleep mode or something. And doors closed, windows up is just a good rule of thumb. So I got the iPad here running the software, and I've downloaded the Stage 2 91 octane map. You can do Stage 2 93 octane, whatever, different fuels, but I'm just going to do 91 octane so I can easily get fuel. So I clicked into that. I did a few customizations. I did the exhaust flap to be always open, so it's a little louder and cold start. And then the catalytic monitors, this is the O2 sensor, and since there's a no catalytic converter in this car, it's got the downpipe. The check engine light would be on otherwise, but I've set that to off, so it'll override that. So I've done all the customizations I want. I'm not doing too much anything special. And now we're ready to flash it. So this is kind of the scary part if you don't know what you're doing, which I kind of do. So hit flash. Warning, battery charger is highly recommended. Turn headlight / fan off. Fan off. Headlights are off. Connect driver's side seatbelt. And do not open / close doors while flashing. If using piggyback device, make sure this is off. Okay, no piggyback device. So flash. The car's gonna go berserk. So you get chassis stabilization control. I hear actuators going. And this is just an iPad connected to basically Lightning to Ethernet, and the Ethernet goes down into the OBD2. There's also different Bluetooth devices you can use for this. So first it's going to basically delete the current map. I've already done this. I had the stage 1 map on here, so pretty similar thing. I did the same customized settings. I've actually flashed it twice before, so this is my third time actually doing this. So I'm a little more confident now. So last time I did this, it took maybe 5 minutes or so. I'm hoping it doesn't take too long because I am currently stuck in the car because I'm not supposed to open the door. It's at 3%. It's been about 45 seconds, so hopefully it speeds up. All right, about a minute and a half in, it finally went off the 3%, and now it's going along pretty well, so it should just be a few more minutes here. 100%, I hear noises. Gauge sweeping. Clearing codes. Successfully flashed. So I've got the chassis stabilization. Yeah, I should be ready to go. And let's start it up. All right, I think we're ready to disconnect the battery charger and go for a test drive. So I actually drove the car for about a week before doing any testing, partially because I thought the map might need to learn the car a little bit and the upgrades. Some things might need to kind of adjust. Also, I just didn't have time to go out and really test it. But here's what we got to compete with. I did probably my best ever perfect 0 to 60 pull before I did this upgrade on the stage 1 tune, and it looked like this. That pull right there was probably the best I could have possibly done. I got a perfect launch, and that was exactly 5 seconds on the nose. So that's what I'm competing with. So here's what I did about a week after doing all the upgrades, and I did not get a very good launch on this, but this one was also exactly 5 seconds. So it was a complete tie between those two. And if you're wondering how I get these times, I just film them, and then I go back into my video editor and look for the exact frame where the needle comes off 0, and then I look for the exact frame where it hits 60, and I find the time in between. So fast forward about a month to now, where I am in a spot where I can safely do multiple pulls, but it's a lot colder. So colder means I will have colder intake temperatures, but also I was battling traction this whole time. Every single pull I tried, I would slip so much off the line. At the time of recording this voiceover right now, I haven't actually calculated the times, so let's see if I could beat the 5 second mark. Oh man, that was a good one, but I definitely lost a lot of traction there. So that one is not gonna be in the books as a good one, I don't think. I'm not getting off the line like I was in the previous test before I did the upgrade. So let's see if I can do it again. Get to a nice little flat spot in the road here. If I can get that traction off the line, then I'm set. Right here. This is it. This is the spot right here. Okay, so I'm gonna try like 2,000 RPM. Maybe I should go higher RPM. No, I'm gonna go like 2,000 RPM. I wish I had launch control. 3, 2, 1. That was not it. Man, too much wheel spinning off the line. Let me try again, and I'll go even less RPM when I dump the clutch. I'll try like 1,500, and I'll dump the clutch right here. That one was much better, I think. And it turns out I was right. 4.8 seconds, that is a full 0.2 seconds faster than my best pull before these mods. Now, there's definitely variables in these. Probably the best thing you could replace to make this car faster would be the driver, because as you can tell, I'm no expert at this whatsoever. Also, if you want to nitpick these 0 to 60 times, I'll totally concede they would probably be slower times if you were on a drag strip and, you know, counting from when the light turns green to when you hit 60, there's obviously some delays, like just driver delay, a little bit of time between letting go of the clutch and the car taking off. I was just recording from the needle at 0 to the needle at 60. So these are just times for the purpose of comparing against each other. I'm not going to go out and tout these times as the necessarily true 0 to 60 time of my car. But I can say for sure, not only was I able to achieve a better personal 0 to 60 time with my car after the mods, it definitely feels faster. Like, it's noticeable. It feels good. Like, I noticed a big difference between stage 1 and stage 2, and this is probably as fast as I am going to make this car. I'm totally cool with it. Now, if you found this video helpful because you've got an F30 and you're thinking about doing some of these same mods, or you just watched it for entertainment because you like to watch me wrench on cars, upgrade them, and test them out, do me a huge solid and subscribe to the channel. Maybe like the video or leave a comment. Of course, I'm always trying to make it to that next subscriber milestone, so it really helps out. Meanwhile, thank you for watching. Please tune back in for the next video. Also, I'm going to put up a few videos on the screen here that I think you might like.